$10,000 for a mere 60 extra horsepower in that car. Do you know how many shoes that can buy, effectively? It's pathetic. We know who's really high maintenance now. But take a look at this. The use of makeup, implants, Botox. We're doing more research in physical vanity than we are for the worst form of brain cancer. Why? I keep asking the question. We're always complaining. Why are we always complaining? I was complaining for years about this, and then I realized natural selection. Watch the next 2 generations of teenagers. Okay, watch. How many of you have at least an 18-year-old or 16-year-old? Raise your hand. How many of you have at least a 12-year-old? Raise your hand. Watch what they do. That's huge. They and what they were doing at 3 years old blows my mind compared to what I was doing at 3 years old. At 3 years old, I was riding tricycles. What they're doing at 3, how many of you are amazed about what these 3-year-olds are doing or saying? That's a leading indicator of what's to come. Let's take a look at another cycle. Innovation cycle repeats itself, but each time with a different twist. Horses for mail delivery, train cars and airplanes. Then we went telephone, fax, email, and mobile phones. What's next? Gadgets or implants for telepathy? Who knows? We're doing everything in communication now to be able to communicate with the boss, but do we really want the boss to know what we're really thinking of him or her? Something to think about. Each time it's a different twist. You can put technology cycles and Elliott wave cycles are almost the same. But each time it's human nature driving this. So what should our process be in forecasting? Well, read a lot, but see what kind of factoids you can pick up. Here's a good example. What's the average age of someone who's an Xbox or Wii user? Does anyone know? Take a guess. 14? No. Keep going. 26? Close. The average Xbox Wii user is 28. 28. That means you know there's some numbers above 28 that are using this. What's the average age of marriage today? Well, for women, it's 27. For men, it's 29. Average 28. Well, fine. You get married at 28. You buy the Xbox at 28. What happens to divorce? 29? The divorce rate in the Western world on the first marriage is about 70%. The divorce rate on the second marriage is 80%. Okay? And these rates are actually true. I keep double checking them. But 80% divorce rate on the second marriage, which means we never learned anything from the first. Okay? And who gets the Xbox or Wii after the marriage? The man or after the divorce? The man or the woman? The man, of course. Okay, that's kind of what we're after. Why overdose on spreadsheets and have no life? Most of these factoids are just, you don't even need a sample size because majority of us are followers and not leaders. Because majority of us are followers. We're all acting like in a herd. It's a wave. You can mingle, you can have a drink, you can get to know friends. You can hear the real trend at a cocktail party, especially from their drunkenness. That's the key. Another weird way I start thinking about the future is also a little eclectic. Movie makers and script writers tend to do their best writing on some form of inebriation, but they also tend to be odd visionaries. How many of you remember the nerds and the geeks in high school? Do you remember that? How many of you got to see the movie Revenge of the Nerds? Raise your hand. Anyone? How many of you saw the third one? I did. I was the nerd. But that's what you're kind of seeing is where, think about Star Trek. My cell phone can do everything now except beaming me up. So numbers don't really create themselves. We create them out of our behavior. And human creativity can't really put in the formula. You've heard this from some of the previous speakers already. Blunt statement on analyst forecasts. Bottom line, I don't look at them. I don't even believe in forecasts. I don't even believe in earnings per share, okay? And I'm tired of watching the news where they make the when they make the financial channels sound like ESPN, okay? And what does that do to our minds? It makes us into a follower. It makes us into a wave because we're all panicking. Bottom line is conformity is our biggest disadvantage. If you want to be weird, be weird. If you want to be different, be different. Okay, that's where our creativity is. And with the stock market today, short-termism is our biggest detriment when doing long-term forecasts. The average holding period of a US stock today is 4 months. 80% of the investor base in the US is institutional. How is it that our institutions claim to be long-term investors, and yet we're creating a turnover of 250% a year? We're really not forecasters. Let's throw in a couple more factoids. A survey was done of CFOs in the US and Canada. And these CFOs basically said, they surveyed where the CFO spends most of their time. 40% of a CFO's time is spent looking for a new job. I don't know what to say to that. 88% of financial managers surveyed said that they were making investment decisions within their firm just for the next quarter. Not long-term capital expenditure decisions, not strategy decisions that we want to have, but just for the earnings per share. I don't believe in our industry. I'll even say, even though I'm part of the industry, I will claim I left the industry 10 years ago because I did not want to conform. What are we gonna? This is kind of our agenda, and I'll quickly go through it. The big picture. What have we learned, and what do we still have to learn across the different things, and then how does it relate to everybody in the financial service industry? You need a takeaway, because when you go to bed tonight, this is how the brain works. Whatever you learn the whole day, the back of our head kind of is a filtration device. It filters out what we liked and what we didn't like, and then it shoves whatever we had into long-term memory. So I hope tonight when you sleep, it's a life changer. The big picture. The longest history of world peace since World War II. We've experienced the largest increase in personal wealth in human history. World population has tripled in the last 50 years. That's the most startling thing. Technology advances have modernized our lives, but it also has commoditized ourselves. And large leaps in medical and biotechnology, unexpected lengthening of human life. I mean, we are life protectors in that way, but unexpected lengthening. Our social security system in the US wanted people to it was developed when people were dying at the age of, you were lucky if you lived up to 53. The average life expectancy of a man before penicillin was discovered was 29. Look what penicillin did alone. The world has gotten closer. We're so much more integrated, okay? It's not just with the EU, it's globally. It's global trade, it's global financial flows. And it shows up in the higher efficiency of world financial markets. Electronic trading, about 50% of all trades in the US are done by the computer. Programmed trades. Makes me feel like I'm in the movie The Matrix. But bottom line, we prefer life. We prefer advances in life. We're possessive of it. It's a driving force of our future actions politically, economically, and socially. This makes forecasting very easy if we look at ourselves a little bit more. And it may sound so common sense, but remember, we're number crunchers in disguise. We're nerds in disguise, so we're not really going to see this completely. Impact of demographics. World's population is becoming bipolar, no pun intended. Emerging market populations are extremely youthful.